Land Rover's always been a passion. My family's been around Land Rovers as long as I can remember. My father always had a Range Rover or a Series Land Rover, and apparently my mother drove one when she was expecting me. My own first vehicle was a Series 3 pickup, which I bought from an auction for £111 with a terrible misfire and bits hanging off. Most of the other things my family have been involved with have always involved Land Rovers, so my father was buying and selling Land Rovers and always has done. It's the only vehicle of its type. Live axles under a box section chassis with a body bolted on top is a very simple construction method. At no point in reality do you want to be without a Defender. Once you've owned one, it might not be your car of choice every day, but it's something that just runs through the blood. One of the most important points is that we maintain what is Defender. What we're about is making it more comfortable, making it quieter, making it smoother, in some instances a little quicker, and giving it some of the modern creature comforts. We have a range of 4 standard vehicles, starting with our T40, which is the look and feel of a twisted vehicle. T40S is something a little bit more extreme, big brakes, loads of power. The T60 is sort of the gentleman's shooting bus. The T60 is one that would be most appropriate to a family, and then our T80 is our flagship, which even with the standard running gear, it's just a different place to be. What we've been out in today is the equivalent of a T80, but in fact with the LS3 General Motors petrol engine. So that's a 6.2 litre, an engine which you've probably come across in the Corvette. We change the manifolds, we alter the mapping, we see about 520 horsepower from it. Fundamentally, we're going from a 120 horsepower vehicle to a 520 horsepower vehicle, so that extra 400 horsepower takes a bit of engineering. In reality, we started with a brand new top spec Land Rover vehicle, but we then took it all apart, started again. And there is very little under there that is still Defender. It actually does 57 miles an hour in first gear. It'll do 74 miles an hour in second gear, it does 110 in third and 130 in fourth, and you've still got fifth left. So in terms of Defender, it's bloody quick. One of the big USPs with that vehicle is when you look at it, it is just a Land Rover. It's not shouting at you, it's not in your face. Yeah, okay, when you start it up, it makes a noise. But it is still just a Defender. And when it's not making its noise, you could park it anywhere and it will not insult anyone. But again, it's a little bit twisted in that the two don't go together. That noise, that car, you know, the American muscle and the English quaint, you know, very cute vehicle. The two really don't go together, but they fit together beautifully. Land Rover originally, the production began in '48 with this Series 1. Ever so simple in its production. Little side valve engine, leaf sprung, very narrow in track, very short in its wheelbase. And ever so light. Thereafter they brought out the Series 2, the Series 2A, Series 3. In '83 the 110 was released, coil sprung, and the Japanese four-wheel drives at the time were still using the Series technology, leaf springs and selectable four-wheel drive. Fundamentally from '83 to now 2015, other than a few electronics and a couple of creature comforts, the vehicle really hasn't changed a great deal. Not wanting to criticise the vehicle at all, because it is what it is. It's built to do a job. But at motorway speeds, it's noisy, things rattle. You can't let go of the steering wheel. It will wander. They're on very narrow section tyres, they've got oil-filled dampers, they've got no power to get out of anybody's way. There are gaps all around the vehicle, so there's wind, there's often water. They're a very, very basic vehicle. The last thing you want to do in a Defender is brake and turn all at the same time. You have to plan everything. What we always endeavour to do is to complement what is Defender. Probably 40% of the work we do you actually can't see, So it's all underneath, so it's suspension, it's brakes, it's power, it's soundproofing, it's sealing, it's panel alignment. There's a washer missing from the bottom of both front wings on every Defender, so they are never ever straight. We have found screwdrivers under the bonnet, we find bolts under the carpet. So we're here not only to get rid of many of these problems, but also to allow the customer to use their imagination and decide what extras they would like to add to that vehicle to make it more appropriate. There isn't really another vehicle on the road that can do what a Defender does. We've all seen the picture of the Queen driving her 110. You know, I've had mine valet parked at the Ritz, but I've also been to Tesco's in it and to the local auction mart. There's not really anywhere that you can't take a Defender. We're not a supermarket for Land Rover upgrades. We're not a mass producer of components, but what we do have at every point pretty much of that vehicle, we've got a 2 or 3 stage process. So it might be suspension. With suspension we have an initial damper upgrade. After we change the dampers, we actually have then a suspension system with a re-valve damper, a different spring and a different anti-roll bar, which enables us to improve the core vehicle. Land Rover ceased production of the Defender model December of this year, December 15. Big change, but we've always known it had to come to an end sometime. And there's no other vehicle out there that has come to the end of production and been so popular. It's more popular now in its final year of production than it has ever been. Usually a manufacturer winds down, but in fact, to my knowledge, Land Rover upped production for this final year. They brought out a number of celebratory editions. Naturally, the demand for that vehicle has grown, certainly in the last 12 to 18 months. We've certainly seen a huge increase in orders. We have a waiting list longer than it's ever been. We are in a very fortunate position, however, that we've got a significant stock of vehicles coming through. So I believe we're going to be building new Defenders for at least the next 3 years. I really hope and I really believe that we will become the curator for Defender in future years. The restoration of that vehicle in itself will become a big part of our business. I think we can keep Defender alive. I think Defender in its own right will remain alive for many years, but I really hope that Twisted is part of that. I've always wanted to build a vehicle. I love the Meccano theory of Defender. It makes it a great one to work on. But in reality, I'd love to start at the beginning. And there's maybe an opening. There's certainly a vehicle going out of production which shouldn't ever be out of production in my eyes. So there might be an opportunity there somewhere. You know, what was probably a pipe dream 5, 6, 7 years ago is probably closer to reality now than it's ever been. And it's certainly not it's not one that we're discounting.